Imagine waking up one morning to breaking news. Major car factories across the United States, Europe, and Japan have been forced to halt production overnight, not due to a fire or strike, but because they can't get their hands on a handful of mysterious minerals. Stock markets are in free fall. Tech executives are frantically calling suppliers. At the center of this chaos is a single question. Has China, quietly and strategically, pulled the plug on the world's supply of rare earth minerals? Welcome to one of the most high-stakes games of economic chess playing out right now, a showdown with the power to reshape global supply chains and the future of technology as we know it. In this video, we're diving deep into the rare earth crisis. Why are these minerals so critical? How did the US and China end up here? And what happens if the world's rare earth lifeline is truly cut off? To answer these questions, we need to start at the beginning, because the story of rare earths is as much about geology and chemistry as it is about politics, power, and the promise of tomorrow's technology. It's no exaggeration to say that rare earth elements are the vitamins of the modern world. Though virtually invisible to the end consumer, these 17 elements are central to our daily lives. They are the secret sauce in everything from the magnets in your smartphone, the batteries in electric cars, the advanced sensors in fighter jets, to the wind turbines that power cities. Without rare earths, the green energy transition stalls, the tech sector sputters, and the defense industry faces unprecedented vulnerability. But here's the catch. While rare earths are not truly rare in the Earth's crust, they are notoriously difficult and environmentally challenging to mine and refine. And for decades, China has mastered this dirty, complex business. Today, it controls more than 80% of global rare earth production. The world's supply chains, from Silicon Valley to Berlin, depend on the steady drip of Chinese exports. How did we get here? Let's rewind a bit. In the late 20th century, as Western countries tightened environmental regulations and mining costs soared, China doubled down. With government subsidies and a focus on capturing value up the supply chain, it turned rare earths into a national strategic asset. Mines sprouted across Inner Mongolia and southern provinces, and the processing expertise, refining, separating, purifying, became world-class. Meanwhile, Western competitors faded away, shuttered by costs and compliance burdens. By the late 1990s, China had achieved something remarkable. As global demand for electronics boomed, it became the world's rare earth superpower, shipping minerals and value-added products to manufacturers everywhere, and, crucially, pricing competitors out of the market. China did not just win the rare earth race, they wrote the rules, says Dr. Jane Harmon, a supply chain expert. Now the rest of the world is left playing catch-up. For a while, this arrangement seemed to work. China earned valuable export income. Foreign companies enjoyed steady, cheap supplies. But as technology advanced and geopolitics shifted, rare earths moved from trade backwater to center stage. Starting in the 2010s, rare earths became a bargaining chip. When Japan detained a Chinese fishing boat captain in 2010, China allegedly halted rare earth shipments to Tokyo in retaliation. It was a preview of the leverage these minerals could provide. Fast forward to the 2020s and the US-China relationship is rockier than ever. Trade disputes have escalated into something resembling a technological Cold War. Tariffs fly back and forth, and each side accuses the other of bad faith. Against this backdrop, rare earths are not merely commodities, they are strategic weapons. Let's zero in on the spring of 2025. US President Donald Trump, once again in office, has publicly accused China of violating a freshly inked trade deal. Specifically, American officials allege that China is slow-rolling the approval of rare earth export licenses, essentially choking off supply to U.S. manufacturers. In response, the U.S. has doubled tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum, ratcheting up pressure. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer declares, "The Chinese are slow-rolling their compliance, which is completely unacceptable and it has to be addressed." For auto executives, this isn't empty rhetoric. The industry, already battered by supply chain shocks, is on edge. Leaders warn that a shortage of Chinese rare earth magnets could force shutdowns in car factories. It's not just about iPhones or fighter jets now, it's about jobs, GDP, and economic security. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent voices the anxiety reverberating through global markets. US-China trade talks are a bit stalled, requiring the two countries' leaders to speak directly. In other words, only a summit-level intervention might break the deadlock. The tactics on both sides are escalating rapidly. The U.S. orders companies to halt shipments of certain goods to China without explicit government licenses and rescinds previously granted export permits. China, for its part, criticizes U.S. moves to revoke Chinese student visas and continues to insist that it's playing fair, with spokesman Liu Pengyu saying, China has maintained communication with U.S. counterparts. But behind closed doors, the suspicion grows. Is China weaponizing its rare earth monopoly for political gain? The numbers are chilling. More than 90% of the world's high-strength rare earth magnets are made in China. Without these, the electric motors that power EVs, drones, even critical medical equipment grind to a halt. The price of rare earth oxides is spiking. Smaller manufacturers are already squeezed, unable to compete with the cash reserves of industrial giants. The world is suddenly waking up to a harsh reality. For years, experts warned about single-source vulnerability in rare earths. Few listened. Today, the specter of rolling factory stoppages in the US, EU, and Japan is triggering emergency meetings in boardrooms and government ministries alike. Could the situation spiral into a full-blown global recession? That fear is not unfounded. Trade wars rarely end with clear winners, and in a world this interconnected, even small disruptions can cascade rapidly. What's at stake isn't just billions of dollars, but the future orientation of entire industries. As David Lauder of Reuters reports, the temporary 90-day trade truce between the U.S. and China has failed to solve the core issues. The latest tit-for-tat actions are just the visible surface. Underneath, trust is evaporating. Both sides know that this isn't about winning a single round, but establishing leverage for the technological future. Now, policy discussions swirl with talk of alternatives. Should the U.S. and its allies race to build up new rare earth mines, invest in costly refining facilities, or pour money into research aimed at eliminating rare earths from tomorrow's technologies altogether? Each of these routes is fraught with its own dangers. New mines can take a decade to come online and face a gauntlet of environmental and regulatory hurdles. Alternative materials are still mostly dreams in the minds of scientists. Meanwhile, for every day that passes, the grip of China's dominance tightens. Global auto executives warn that an impending shortage of rare earth magnets is not a future problem. It's an imminent one. Supply chain risk has transformed from a theoretical boardroom discussion to a boardroom crisis, remarks one executive anonymously. The stakes could scarcely be higher. Behind every headline, millions of workers and consumers are vulnerable. Higher prices, fewer jobs, slowing technology progress. These are not abstract risks. They're the real-world fallout when supply chains snap. And as Treasury Secretary Bessent points out, only direct intervention by the U.S. and Chinese presidents might have the chance to break the ice. But even that is a political gamble. So as we stand on the edge of this rare earth precipice, one question looms. If China is willing to use its near monopoly as a bargaining chip now, what's to stop it from pushing even harder the next time global interests collide? And if the world scrambles for solutions, diversification, innovation, or negotiation, are we already too late to build true resilience? The next chapter could decide not just the fate of rare earths, but the playbook for 21st century economic power. As we stand on the brink of a new era, the fate of rare earth minerals is more than just a trade dispute. It's a test for the entire global order. Let's explore what the future could hold, the hidden dangers, and the opportunities that might just reshape the global landscape in unexpected ways. Imagine a world where your electric car, your smartphone, or even the wind turbines spinning on the horizon suddenly halt because a single diplomatic row thousands of miles away has choked off the supply of essential ingredients. This isn't science fiction. It's a scenario that business leaders, policymakers, and ordinary families are anxiously considering as the U.S.-China rare earth standoff deepens. The global economy is caught in a vice. As the trade conflict escalates, anxiety ripples from boardrooms in Detroit to assembly lines in Tokyo, from high-tech hubs in Silicon Valley to small-town factories relying on the relentless hum of global commerce. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent put it bluntly, U.S.-China trade talks are a bit stalled, requiring the two countries' leaders to speak directly. But what happens if that crucial conversation never takes place, or worse, if it fails? One possible future is a world riven by escalating tariffs and restrictions. As the United States doubles down on tariffs, raising them to a staggering 50% on steel and aluminum, the tit-for-tat cycle threatens to spiral out of control. China, accused of deliberately slow-walking export licenses for rare earths, could weaponize its dominance, sending shockwaves through global supply chains. Already, global auto executives are sounding the alarm about looming shortages of rare earth magnets. These tiny but powerful components are essential for electric vehicle motors. Without them, entire lines of production could grind to a halt, risking mass layoffs and billions in lost sales. In an urgent memo, one executive warned, "Factory closures are no longer a distant threat, they're knocking at the door." Across the Atlantic, European leaders scramble for contingency plans. Japan, burned before by Chinese restrictions in 2010, redoubles efforts to diversify its sources of these vital minerals. India, Australia, and Canadian mining companies eye the headlines as both a threat and an unprecedented opportunity. And while factories brace for the worst, consumers face a cascade of consequences: higher prices for electronics, delays in car deliveries, and potential stagnation in renewable energy projects that hinge on rare earths for efficiency and reliability. Yet, amid the tension lies the glimmer of opportunity. Could this crisis trigger a new wave of innovation? Some experts believe so. As reliance on China becomes increasingly risky, governments and companies are pouring billions into research and development, hunting for substitutes or entirely new materials. Scientists are racing the clock, searching for ways to replace neodymium and dysprosium, the lifeblood of powerful magnets, with abundant alternatives. If they succeed, the entire rare earth market could be turned upside down, and new winners and losers would emerge overnight. There's a parallel push for recycling. Imagine a world where every discarded smartphone or wind turbine blade is a new mine, its rare earth content recovered and reused in an endless loop. This closed-loop vision, once seen as futuristic, is now being fast-tracked by both governments and companies desperate to insulate themselves from geopolitical shocks. Of course, these solutions come with a catch. Developing alternative sources of rare earths, whether in the sands of Australia, the mines of Greenland, or the recycling plants of Europe, will take time and money. Industry analysts warn that even with best-case scenarios, building a resilient supply chain could take 5 to 10 years. During that transition, prices could soar, smaller companies could fold, and some industries may be forced to relocate or even disappear. So, what does this mean for you, the viewer? Why should a battle over obscure-sounding minerals matter to your daily life? Let's break it down. Every smartphone in your pocket, every electric vehicle on the roads, every green energy project drawing power from the wind or sun quietly depends on a steady stream of rare earths. The price and availability of these goods, and the jobs that depend on them, are now intimately tied to this high-stakes geopolitical chess match. But knowledge is power. Understanding the rare earth dilemma means you can better anticipate the ripple effects, whether it's higher prices at the dealership, delays for the latest gadgets, or even larger questions about energy security and the environment. As consumers and citizens, you have a stake in the outcome and a voice in shaping the solutions. So, what can you do? First, stay informed. The rare earth crisis is a masterclass in how the world's supply chains, politics, and technology are interwoven. Don't fall for simplistic narratives. Dive deeper, ask questions, and follow credible sources. Second, support innovation and sustainability. Whether you're choosing a car, a phone, or home appliances, look for companies investing in ethical sourcing, recycling, or alternative materials. Your choices send powerful signals to the market. Third, advocate for resilience. Policy isn't just something that happens in Washington or Beijing. Demand that leaders in your own country invest in research, diversify supply chains, and build alliances to ensure industries, especially green energy and technology, aren't held hostage by a single supplier. Most importantly, recognize that this crisis is both a warning and an opportunity. The supply chain vulnerabilities exposed by the rare earth shock could become the catalyst for a safer, cleaner, and more resilient world economy, if, and only if, we learn from past mistakes. In the words of Jamieson Greer, U.S. Trade Representative, the Chinese are slow-rolling their compliance, which is completely unacceptable and it has to be addressed. His frustration is echoed by business leaders across sectors, and by consumers who feel the pinch as prices creep upward. But here's the secret fact few realize. China's rare earth advantage did not happen by accident. Decades ago, Beijing identified rare earths as a strategic resource critical for the future. Through targeted investment and, some say, disregard for environmental costs, they built a near unassailable lead. The rest of the world, distracted by lower prices, allowed their own domestic industries to wither. Now that short-term thinking has come back to haunt us all. Is it too late to break China's rare earth stranglehold? The answer is not yet, but the clock is ticking. Nations can claw back some independence through innovation, recycling, and alliances. But the transition will be bumpy. There will be winners and losers, pain before progress. The coming years will demand bold leadership, cooperation between rivals, and a willingness to rethink the very foundations of modern industry. If there's a lesson here, it's that resilience isn't built overnight. The rare earth crisis is a wake-up call, a reminder that for all our technological miracles, we still rely on the rocks beneath our feet and the careful choreography of global commerce. So next time you pick up your phone or marvel at a quiet electric car, remember, somewhere, an unseen supply chain is being tested as never before. The outcome depends on the choices made today, in boardrooms, laboratories, and voting booths around the world. What choices will you make? If you found this deep dive valuable, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Where do you see the future of rare earths heading? Should government